Hello, my name is Doris and I am Little Bird Products. Today's video, I wanted to talk about priorities. I always have my priorities for the week. I do have priorities for the year and the month and the week. And what I do every day, I write down my priorities for the next day. I usually do that in the evening. What I want to accomplish. And I look back at what I had decided I wanted to accomplish for the week and then add to that. And normally I have a lot of things, but I have to think about them in prioritized terms. And I do have priorities, but it's difficult for me to get it to which is the most important priority for the day. For example, what I'm going to talk about today are my 3 priorities for today. And one was to finish these bloomers. I had to put another piece of lace trim along the top of the ruffle, and you'll see that. And I'll show them more pictures in detail at the end of the video. I love my bloomers, but I need to get off the bloomer wagon and get back on the duster jacket and sweatshirt wagon. So those are my other 2 priorities for today. This one I got finished. And coming up, I will show you where I am working on my 3 priorities at the same time. Normally what I do is I have to go back and forth between a couple of projects. I try not to have more than 3 on my table at the same time because then that gets overwhelming and I don't want to do anything. But my duster jackets, I like to have an idea, have the materials together, sort of a pseudo design, and then I have to move forward with that. And as I'm moving forward with it, sometimes things morph and change, which did happen with the duster jacket, and I'll show you that here. It started out that I was going to cut the jacket shorter and then add material that I got from a blouse and a dress onto the bottom to make it a duster jacket. Well, when I pulled the jacket out and I tried it on again, it's a size 16, but I wanted to make it fit me comfortably and make it a 2X. And when I was looking at the back of it, it had a perfect panel that I could just take out. So I did that, and then I tried it on, and gosh, it felt really comfortable, and I liked it. And I liked the pockets in the front, and I liked the trim. So I really did want to keep those. I didn't want to cut all of that off. And it's a nice, lightweight denim with a little bit of stretch in it. So I decided to take the same pieces that I had designed together, but do it different. So when I took that piece out of the center back, then I did an inset of the material. And then I had to stop, and I pinned it up on the man. I have pinned up the bottom sides to decide if I want to have it be a high-low jacket or I don't want to have it be the same length all the way around. And I'm going to be working on that, and you'll see in the rest of the video what I end up doing with it. But while that was kind of cooking in my mind and on my mannequin there as part of my mind share, I decided to move forward with my sweatshirts. So I picked out the shirts that I wanted to use. The sweatshirt really is my acronym for a sweatshirt, but I make them really sweet. So you can see what I did here to put them together, and I'll walk you through that for how my sweatshirt was made. And as a part of that, I wanted to put some applique, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use for the applique, and you'll see as I talk you through what I ended up with. I'll also show you how I stabilize material for the applique. And with these bloomers, you can't really see here, but you'll see in the pictures at the end, I added some more applique towards the end because I wanted something that was a little different, some butterflies and some other things. And one of my other YouTube peeps, Tracy Myers, does a lot of beautiful applique work. And I thought, oh, Tracy Myers, she has good ideas. And she uses shower curtains sometimes from Amazon. But if you look in the description of the video, I have a link to some pillowcase covers. They're outdoor covers, but it's a real bargain because I get 4 of them in a set, and they have a lot of nice butterflies and birds and snails and flowers and things on it to cut up for applique. So if you're interested in that, I think that's a pretty good bargain. And if you look at the pictures in the end for these bloomers, you'll see the applique of a couple of them. I put a snail and a butterfly from that I cut out. And that, because it was outdoor pillow cover fabric, it had a nice weight to it, so I did not put stabilizer behind it. I just pinned it up and then zigzag stitched around it. But I did cut it with pinking shears so that it won't fray. It's not that kind of fabric. It's got a lot of polyester in it, but it's a nice feel to it. So if you're looking for some applique of some flowers and butterflies and things, that's a bargain, so I suggest you go over to Amazon and look at that. And then they also have a shower curtain that's similar to that, but it's butterflies all over it. So I've been doing that and playing around a little bit with applique. So you can see that I do have priorities. Those are my priorities for the week, and the week is coming to a close. So cross your fingers, wish me luck. I'm thinking I can get everything done and get it all put in this video today. So enjoy, and make sure you watch till the end and you can see my little sewing tip for you. And I think it's a real important one today. Maybe a lot of you know this tip, but I would guarantee you that just like with my other sewing tips, there's some of you that don't know it yet. So it's valuable knowledge to have. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Today I am inspired. I am going to pick my favorite little set of sweatshirts to start my sweet shirt project. So hang on and you'll see this 2 little items get transformed. And who says I can't work on 2 things at once? My sweet shirt, my duster jacket, and of course, a third thing, finishing off my latest pair of bloomers. I'm not going to say my last pair. I'm saying my latest pair. Yes, I am going to work on these 3 things and finish them. Watch for more. Alrighty then, this is how I work on 3 things at once. I did finish the last little bit of lace on my bloomers, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. And then I pinned up, I took out the center back of the jacket because that's how I like to make them a little larger. And this is kind of a denim that's got a little stretch to it, the jacket is. It's nice and soft, kind of lightweight. So then I had these pieces of a long blouse, and that one was that long. So I decided that's twice as wide as the back, and I pinned that into the center of the back. And then I decided that I wanted to make it what I call duster length. I like this below the knees duster length, and it's a relatively lightweight jacket. So I had extra pieces of that, and I pinned it up all the way around to the bottom, you can see, but it's kind of open in the front. So I like that, and I wanted to keep these pockets. A lot of times I just cut it off and make it high-low, but I like the pockets, and with opening up the back, it made it plenty wide enough to be a 2X comfortably. And then what I decided to do is I'm going to cut these sleeves off, and probably shorter than that, because I have some pleated pieces of this same blouse that I was going to use on the front. But because I have enough of these extra pieces, like I did in the back, to lengthen it, I'm going to take those pieces that were pleated, and I'm going to make them the end of the sleeves. And so there'll be kind of a trumpet sleeve, and they'll be wider and kind of pleated. So I haven't cut that off yet, but what I decided to do was do the back and the bottom of the jacket first, then try it on and decide where I want to cut the sleeves off and how long I want those pleated pieces. I think that's going to make a really, really nice jacket, make it a little lighter weight, more feminine, and I like the way these little zippers are on the pockets, and see these little brass studs. They're there and they decorate the top of the pocket. So I'm going to make that a really nice duster jacket. So I got that pinned up, and then before I like to look at it for a while and let it kind of sink in and like the colors, make sure I have all of the length right. And I'll do the center back, sew that in first, and then finalize how high-low it's going to be, or if it's going to be the same length all the way around. I kind of like it the same length all the way around because I do have enough length to do that. Now, working on this piece, my sweatshirt, I'm going to put these two pieces together. The first thing I do is I cut the band off. I don't like that band on the bottom of a sweatshirt for my sweatshirts, because I think that accentuates some of the widest places for all of us. And I think it's a little more comfortable like this. And then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to put pieces of that gray. In fact, I might take the band that's on the gray and put it on the bottom of here, so that complements it. So then next thing I'm going to do is cut my sides this way and angle them, because I'm going to take the sides from that and marry it to this. But while I'm cutting things, and I don't have things pinned up, I'm going to make this a V-neck, so I can do that relatively easily. And I kind of like the ragged edges, but I'll decide as I go along if I'm going to do that. And this really cute striped shirt that's going to be on the sides for the sleeves, you notice it has little red hearts on it? I'm going to find some red material in my stash, and I'm going to check out this off-white shirt, and if it has any spots on it or discolorations, I'll note those, because I want to make some red heart applique and put it around different places on the sweatshirt. So I'll come back in a bit and show you when I got it all pinned up. And the next thing I did was I cut that band off around the neck because I don't like that. And then I measured how far down, that's center of this, okay, and how far down I wanted to make that V. And I cut it. And then I used a little zigzag stitch on my sewing machine, and I zigzagged all the way around, where I wouldn't have had to do that, but I like the way the stitching looks, and the sweatshirt doesn't fray, so you could have left that raw around the edge, but I just kind of like the way the stitching looked, and it makes it a little wider neck opening. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and cut over there, the sides, the sleeves off, and then I'll lay it on here and show you what it's going to look like. Then I'll stitch it together and I'll be ready to do the applique work. I thought I probably should show you the way that I cut the sides for this. And let me turn this around. First, what I do is I measure the width, and it's about 28 inches, and then I look for the center, and I put a pin where here's the center. And then what I do is I place my ruler at the very outside of the neck there, clear down to here. And what I'll do is I'll do it the same way the other way, and I will cut that off. And because I cut it at an angle, it'll widen the bottom of the shirt too, so it makes it nice and comfy. I did cut the bottom band off because, as you know, I don't like the bands, but this will be the sleeves of the new shirt. I do kind of like the bands on that, so the jury's still out for me for whether I'm going to leave those bands on or not. They're an easy thing. If someone wants to cut them off, they can, but there won't be anything else that matches that band. Although I did save the band there in case I want to put it on the bottom of the shirt. But I do like the raw edge bottom. I might make this a little shorter shirt like this, a shorter sweatshirt. You say that 5 times real fast. So okay, I'm going to cut this, then I'll have the sides, then I'll marry it to that shirt and come back and show you what it's going to look like before I sew it together. I thought it might be helpful for you to see this before I take it apart. You see how the cut is down there? Okay, and then that centerpiece, what I do a lot of times is I'll save that and I can make pockets out of that. Or I could do some applique out of that. Maybe cut those in a heart shape and put them on the white of the sweatshirt. That might be a good idea. And I do like to serge all my edges, even though it's a sweatshirt and it won't fray. I'm going to take this to my serger and sew the edges of that, because I kind of like the way that looks. Anyway, moving right along. And here is this all laid out. You can see how it makes the sweatshirt much wider, so it'll fit very comfortably for a variety of sizes. So what I need to do is stitch this along the side, and then I think I am going to cut some heart shade applique out of that piece that I took out of the center. And I might do, I'll have to look at it, I might do some side pockets here out of the sleeves that I took off, because you know I never like to waste anything. And then I'm going to see what the length ends up being with this. I might just leave it as a shorter sweet shirt, and I have to decide on the sleeve treatments or in a bit. Just a quick snippet. This is what I'm using to back my scrap pieces of fabric to make my applique hearts. It's Wonder Under heavy duty. It helps stabilize the pieces of material. You put it on the wrong side of your scrap fabric, and there's two sides of this Wonder Under. One is soft, you know, smooth. The other side is kind of bumpy, and that's got glue on it. So what you do is you use a dry iron, and you put parchment paper over it, and you put it on there just on dry heat, and that merges that with that, bonds it. And then what you'll do is, after all of those pieces are done, you let it cool, and then you peel this off, and so now it has glue on the backing. So then what I do, well, actually before I take that off, what I do is cut out my applique, my hearts, and then you can peel this off at the back. And that way you'll have your heart applique, and it has this fabric backing, keeps it kind of stiff, but then you pull that off, and then that exposes the glue side that you've laid down, and then you put your applique onto your fabric that you're going to applique it on. I'll show you that. And then you iron it on there. And what that does is that keeps it stable so that you can sew around it and tack it down. So this is great stuff. I use it every time I'm appliquing. And now that I've ironed on the sticky stabilizer onto the back of my pieces of scrap, you can see where I've taken my little heart-shaped patterns and drawn them on the back side of that. Now my next step is to cut these out, and then I will have my applique to press iron on to my sweatshirts so that then I can stitch it down. I am going to go ahead and draw a few more hearts and some stars on these other pieces of scrap, so I have them ready should I choose to use that applique on this project or a project in the future. I thought it might be helpful for you to see how I lay out these hearts. This one I have the backing almost all the way off, and then it's left sticky glue behind, see, on this. So I wish I could say it's always easy to get that off, as easy as that, but it isn't. So then I decided on the placement of the layout, and I kind of like this, kind of stair-stepped hearts across the back. And I put a pin in each one of these, and then I'll take them to the ironing board, and then just apply a hot iron with parchment paper over the top. I always do that. Don't worry about this. This is just fuzz. It's not dirt. It's fuzz from pulling off the things. So anyway, I'll have a line of hearts across the back. I put a couple of little hearts on the front there. So I'm going to go to the ironing board and set these, and then I will sew the sleeves on. I find it's easier to open everything out, have all the applique on, ironed on, and I'll probably stitch it too before I put the sleeves on. And then I'll come back and show you the finished pictures.
I wanted to give you my sewing tip of the day. I have several different sewing machines, and today when I was doing, you know, what all we dread to do when we run out of thread in our bobbins, I was filling some more bobbins. And I do try to match the thread in my bobbin to the thread in my sewing machine. However, when I was doing that, I was thinking maybe it would be important for you to know, and maybe you already do know, that not all bobbins are made alike. For instance, my Husqvarna Viking, sewing embroidery machine takes what I call the green bobbins. I should know what the size is, but I don't. But there are many different sizes and kinds of bobbins. There's the plastic bobbins and there's the metal bobbins. And I have heard that computerized sewing machines don't like the metal bobbins. I do have some metal bobbins and I use them in my Janome and also in my new Singer Heavy Duty. But they won't work in my Husqvarna Viking because it only likes the green bobbins. The metal bobbins that I use are the same size as the plastic bobbins I use. And those plastic bobbins, I think they're an L size bobbins because that's a pretty common size. They're compatible with both my Singer and my Janome, which I was really happy with because I like to have a lot of them wound with different colored threads ahead of time. And I do swap them back and forth, between those two machines. But if I'm going to use a new bobbin of, let's just say, I want a yellow thread bobbin in my Husqvarna Viking, I have to put yellow thread in one of my green bobbins. So if you're not sure, you can look up with your manufacturer what bobbin type, what size your machine takes. And you should check that because if you don't have the right size bobbin in your machine, it can cause thread breaks, jam ups, and actually sometimes can damage your machine. I'm going to put in the description for this video another video for you to watch where she does an excellent job of explaining the different sizes and types of bobbins. And I think that's very useful information to have in your little sewing stash of information. So that's the sewing tip of the day. Bye.